Shocking surge. Record number of Americans seek refugee status in Canada, 2025. Welcome back to Canada Chronicles. Today we're exposing one of the most surprising immigration shifts of 2025, a record surge in Americans applying for refugee status in Canada. The numbers may look small at first, but compared to past years, the rise is historic and the reasons behind it reveal a much bigger story. This is not just about statistics. It is about why people from the United States are turning north for protection and what it means for Canada's immigration system. If you stay with us until the end, we'll dive into an eye-opening part of this story titled Hidden Pathways and What No One is Talking About. It uncovers a side of refugee claims that most people have never heard of, and it could change the way you understand this entire issue. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and stick around as we break down the facts, the risks, and the solutions. Let's get started. In the first half of 2025, 245 U.S. citizens filed refugee claims in Canada. That is more than the entire total for 2024, which was 204, and more than in any full year since 2019. The figure may seem small when compared to the roughly 55,000 total refugee claims made in the same period, but the real story lies in the sudden percentage increase, the historical context, and the powerful reasons cited by claimants and immigration lawyers. Why the jump matters. The concern is not just a higher number of claims, but what these claims represent: fear, political changes, and legal uncertainty in the United States. Many of the claimants, particularly transgender individuals, see their home country as increasingly unsafe. They point to new state laws and court decisions that restrict gender-affirming care, limit service in the military, impose bathroom restrictions, and weaken protections for LGBTQ+ communities. Canada has historically approved very few U.S.-based refugee claims. The Canadian system requires asylum seekers to prove that no part of their country is safe for them, which is a high legal threshold. Many Americans who attempt to claim asylum are turned back at land borders because of the Safe Third Country Agreement. This agreement requires that people who first enter the United States make their refugee claim there, unless they meet narrow exemptions such as having close family in Canada, being stateless, or facing removal to another country. Lawyers in Canada note that the data do not always explain why people file claims. However, they report that many transgender Americans are applying after experiencing discrimination or fear of hostile environments. Even so, motives are not always captured in official statistics. There is also a serious risk for people turned back under the Safe Third Country Agreement. Some have been detained in the United States and warned they could be deported to third countries, even if they had family in Canada or legitimate fears about safety. This surge reveals weaknesses in U.S. protections for vulnerable groups, especially LGBTQ+ individuals, and adds strain to Canada's refugee adjudication system. It also creates political tension and public debate in both countries. What the numbers tell us. 245 Americans applied for asylum in the first half of 2025, compared to 204 in all of 2024. That is more than a 20% increase in just 6 months. The total number may be small relative to Canada's 55,000 refugee claims overall, but the trend is striking given the historically low baseline. Immigration lawyers report that transgender claimants appear to be overrepresented. Cases include a trans woman from Arizona who applied in April 2025, and parents filing claims on behalf of trans children. The Immigration and Refugee Board of Canada has begun incorporating reports from international human rights organizations into its documentation packages. These reports help adjudicators evaluate the risks faced by LGBTQ+ individuals in the United States. Risks and impacts. For those making these claims, the risks are significant. Rejection rates are high. Canada generally treats the United States as a safe country, so proving that no state is safe requires compelling evidence. Many claims will fail. Turnbacks under the Safe Third Country Agreement can leave people in detention or limbo. Some have faced threats of removal to countries outside the U.S. or Canada. Claimants pay a steep emotional and financial price. They must navigate legal costs, provide extensive documentation, and cope with the fear of being forced to return. Even though the number of American claims is small, it still affects Canada's refugee system, which is already under strain from high volumes of claims worldwide. Politically, the issue is explosive. Some Canadians view it as Americans abusing the system, while others see it as a human rights crisis requiring compassion. Conditions in the United States. So what is pushing this surge? Rollbacks in transgender rights. Some U.S. states have banned or limited gender-affirming medical care, restricted participation in sports, and reduced access to public services. Court decisions. The U.S. Supreme Court has upheld or allowed policies that restrict LGBTQ+ protections. The political climate. Claimants describe growing hostility in many states, with violence, harassment, and a lack of legal protection. Lawyer reports. Canadian immigration lawyers say they are seeing more U.S. transgender clients than in past years. While this is partly anecdotal, it highlights an undeniable shift in demand. The Safe Third Country Agreement. The Safe Third Country Agreement is central to understanding this story. When people arrive at a land border from the United States, they are generally expected to file their asylum claim in the U.S. instead of Canada. Only limited exemptions apply. Since 2023, the agreement has been expanded, narrowing eligibility even further. Some claimants argue they cannot be safe in any U.S. state. Proving that in court, however, is extremely difficult. Hidden pathways and what no one is talking about. Thanks for staying with us this far. We appreciate your time and hope you're finding this information valuable. Now here is a side of the story that few people are talking about. Hidden pathways and what no one is talking about. Some Americans are bypassing official routes altogether. Instead of crossing at airports or legal land ports, they are using irregular border crossings or overstaying visas inside Canada before making their claims. Many do this because the Safe Third Country Agreement blocks legal options. The Immigration and Refugee Board of Canada has begun updating its documentation to include detailed reports from organizations such as Human Rights Watch. These reports now influence what evidence is considered credible, such as cases of violence, denial of medical care, or harassment in certain U.S. states. The risks are enormous. People who use irregular crossings face detention, loss of status, or the possibility of being sent back to the United States under the Safe Third Country Agreement. Some are even threatened with deportation to a third country. Yet there are precedents. In a few cases, claimants have convinced Canadian adjudicators that conditions in certain U.S. states are unsafe, particularly when access to health care was denied. While rare, these cases may become more common as the documentation evolves. This hidden dimension shows that the surge is not only about rising numbers. It is about how Canada interprets evidence, how far claimants are willing to go, and what risks they face in search of safety. Paths forward. What can be done to address this growing challenge? 1. Adjust the Safe Third Country Agreement. Canada could create exemptions for LGBTQ+ claimants, especially from U.S. states with restrictive laws. 2. Improve documentation. The Immigration and Refugee Board should continue expanding its packages with reports from credible organizations and ensure adjudicators are trained to use them. 3. Expand legal aid and settlement services. More funding would help claimants build stronger cases and access mental health, housing, and healthcare support. 4. Monitor U.S. state laws. Canada could create a detailed map of risk, tracking legal changes across states to better evaluate claims. 5. Increase transparency. Public reporting of claim outcomes, acceptance rates, and appeals would reassure Canadians that the system is fair. 6. Encourage reforms in the United States. While outside Canada's direct control, international advocacy can push for stronger protections in the U.S., reducing the need for citizens to seek asylum abroad. The surge in U.S. citizens seeking refugee protection in Canada may still be small compared to the overall number of claims, but its significance cannot be ignored. It reflects rising fear, changing laws, and the strain on Canada's refugee system. Above all, it forces us to confront the question of how safe people truly are when they feel compelled to leave one of the wealthiest countries in the world in search of protection. Stories like these remind us that immigration is never just about numbers. It is about real lives, their struggles, and the systems that are supposed to protect them. If Canada and the United States want to live up to their values, both must face the gaps revealed by this trend and ensure that those seeking safety are treated with dignity and fairness. Thanks for watching Canada Chronicles. If you found this video informative, don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an update that could impact your future. We'll keep bringing you the facts that matter most. See you in the next video.